Nick Saban retires and we react. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Emily Proud. And before we get rolling, a reminder to hit that like button and make sure that you are subscribed to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Let's get you up to date on the latest in this ongoing story of Nick Saban's retirement after 17 seasons at Alabama. Our Bama 24/7 senior writer John Talty reports alongside Matt Zenitz and Mike Rodak that Nick Saban cited age and health issues when explaining retirement decision to the team. The team was also told the school hopes to have a replacement within the next 72 hours. As it pertains to that, we have to welcome in John Talty of Bama 24/7, who has been all over this. And John, we've had 24 hours to just really digest this news. So what is the latest that you're hearing coming out of Tuscaloosa?
I think that's still a lot of shock, Emily, honestly. Even 24 hours, I think, and you're seeing some of the things that Nick Saban has said to ESPN and other places coming out of this, that, he came down really to the wire, that even at 3:55 p.m., he was still wondering what speech he was going to give to the team. We had reported last night that he was still interviewing coaching candidates up until about 3:55. So he was someone who was going through his normal progression, his normal day, up until the very minute that he decided that it was time to retire. So I think people are still trying to process that, still trying to understand his decision and what's next. And of course, for what we do, the attention quickly turns to coaching search and who the candidates are going to be and all that. But I think there's still a lot of shock and attempts to process the loss of someone who's been just such a dominant presence in college football for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, someone who does not really have time to process that is Greg Byrne, the Alabama athletic director. He said that the next time that he speaks publicly, it will be to announce a new head coach. And it sounds like that we can cross Dan Lanning off the list after the epic video that he posted on Twitter. So what do you know right now about this ongoing coaching search?
Yeah, the three names that I've gotten the most on so far are Washington head coach Kalen DeBoer, Florida State head coach Mike Norvell, and Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian. That's from talking to various people in the industry. Those are the names that we've been pointed to keep an eye on. That's not saying that it's definitely going to be one of those, but those are the names that people think to keep an eye on. There's various connections for all of those guys, either back to Alabama or why they might be a potential fit. But those are the names that are being bandied about the most right now, that people think could be potentially one of those three guys.
I remember you told us yesterday that Byrne likes to move in silence, and so we probably won't hear a whole lot about this until he is ready to announce the next guy. I think what's interesting about this, too, is Saban was so much more than a coach. He was the CEO of that program, and he had a lot of sway at the university as a whole. So, John, now that he's gone, how will that power structure among the higher-ups, the boosters, and the new head coach evolve at Alabama?
Well, I think what's interesting is that, he has said that he's going to keep an office in the football facility. That's a little unique to me, and I wonder, just how involved he's going to be moving forward. I think it's always interesting when a guy is as much of a legend as he is to kind of be hanging around. That can be challenging for a new coach to come in, to not only have to replace the greatest coach ever, but also that he's still kind of in the building. You've seen other guys, especially I think like Coach K, Roy Williams, some of them have kind of backed off to give the new guy some space. I'm sure he'll want to do that, but that was a little interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, the joke has been for a long time that, Nick Saban might have a boss, but he doesn't really have a boss just because of his stature and importance in Alabama. And I think whoever they hire, that'll be a different dynamic between him and athletic director Greg Byrne, probably more of a traditional relationship. Whereas, again, those two got along well, they worked well together, but I think it was very clear to everybody in that athletic facility, everybody at that university, and everybody in the state of Alabama that Nick Saban was the one who was really running the show and was able to get a lot of what he wanted. And, of course, justifiably so. I mean, won 6 national championships there.
Yeah, that will be an interesting dynamic to monitor, him keeping an office there at the facilities. You'd think that he would make use of that $17.5 million Palm Beach home, but maybe he will split time between those two places. John, you got unprecedented access when you wrote the book on Nick Saban that came out in 2022. So peel the curtain back for us. Who is Nick Saban, the person?
Yeah, I think in some ways he's misunderstood. I think some of what you see is accurate, but I think there is more to him than just the guy who we've seen yell and scream and break headsets. And I think he's done a good job over the last few years of starting to let people into more of that. Lots of players and coaches have talked about how funny he can be. He's got kind of this dry sense of humor and likes to, make little jabs and little jokes to people. And he's a guy who, cares a lot about his team, cares a lot about his players. I think there was a time where we treated him as almost like a robot who was uncaring and didn't only cared about winning. And that's really not who he is. He loves the guys he's coached. And you hear stories, and I've talked to a lot of these guys over the years, someone who might have played for him 35, 40 years ago, they reach out to him, but hey, can I pop by Alabama to see a practice? He always goes out of his way to do it. He'll still write recommendation letters for guys who played for him 30 years ago. I mean, he just has such a bond with his players. And kind of once you're inside his circle, you're kind of in there for life.
All right. You said he's keeping an office at the facilities, and I can't imagine a world of football without Nick Saban somewhat in it. So what do you think is next for him?
Yeah, he's talked about TV. And so I wrote about in that book that, about a decade ago, he considered potentially, retiring at that point and taking a job at ESPN's College Game Day. That's something that I think is always going to be an option for him. ESPN is very interested in him. He's great on TV. He's appeared on Game Day over the years. He does a weekly spot on Pat McAfee, in which he's very entertaining. So I could see some sort of component for him in which he does something with ESPN or another television network. He has multiple car dealerships. I think he'll have opportunities should he want them to be a CEO of a company just based on his incredible organizational skills and business acumen and all these different things. So he's got a lot of opportunities to do different things. Knowing Nick Saban, this is not the guy who's just going to drop off the map and do nothing. I think he's going to want to keep busy. He's for so long had structure. And so he thought about leaving years ago. The number one thing he said that was holding him back, he's like, I need to feel like I'm part of a team. So I think he's going to try to find what that is that feels closest to leading a team, being part of a team, to kind of fill up that part of himself.
He's not a guy that I think is good at sitting still, so certainly needs to fill the voids somewhere. John, thank you so much. It's been a busy 24 hours for you, and will continue to be busy as this coaching search continues, but we appreciate you being here today. You can check out more of his work at Bama247.com for all the great intel regarding the coaching candidates and, of course, the fallout that continues from this major news. And there's a deal going on right now. We got 60% off annual VIP memberships. Highly recommend you get that. That's where all the good, juicy information comes from. They have you covered at Bama 24/7.